Hey friends, Zolgar here with some exciting news. I'm going to be at SAC Anime in Sacramento, California, September 2nd through 4th, Rose City Comic Con in Portland, Oregon, September 9th through 11th, and Salt Lake FanX in Salt Lake City, Utah, September 22nd through 24th. I won't have a table, but I will have some buttons that I can hand out if you come find me. I'll be hanging out with my friend, the Peculiar Magpie, at his booth selling cool props and nerdy art pieces. I will post pictures and booth numbers on our social media during each show.
Welcome to Two Idiots and a Dog, Idiots Unleashed.
Fuck Jim!
Who the fuck is Jim?
I'm not sure, but I told Seller Letters I was going to steal their tagline.
Sorry, Seller Letters.
Sorry.
I'm Grim.
I'm Zolgar, and Kaiju is around here somewhere.
We think.
Maybe.
Possibly. Just a quick warning, this is an uncensored podcast, so you may hear adult language or other content not suited for children, the workplace, church, or, frankly, human consumption.
I just want to let you know, I was really tempted to fuck up the opening again, intentionally.
I will hurt you.
Anyways, this week our topic is... cartoons are for kids.
Fuck you! No, they're not.
That is actually Grimm's stupid idea. If you have an idea for a topic for us, you can let us know on our Discord or social media. But you can only vote in the... I can talk. But you can only vote in the topic poll on Discord. We're professionals.
This is a train wreck.
Now stand back.
At this point, were we ever leashed?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so we're going to front load this with a quick disclaimer. We will not be discussing hentai or other pornographic animation in this episode.
What, no Bible Black?
I already told you, we are not going to be discussing Bible Black.
Aww.
That said, if you wanted to
how about La Blue Girl?
No! We're not doing a Ratsuka Doji either.
Those were the only two hentai I know off the top of my head.
God. That said, if you do want us to talk about hentai for some twisted reason, you sick pervert.
Tentacles.
Ko-Fi is right over there, but I will warn you, that's going to cost you a lot more than $20.
No, it won't. We're whores.
Yes, it will. We're whores with standards.
Standards? What are those?
Okay, I have standards.
Yeah, they're in the dirt.
But they still exist.
Alright, so... First thing we should probably cover is... there is a particular genre of adult animation where we're going to acknowledge we're really not going to talk much about.
Yeah, that's going to be your Matt Groenings.
Your Seth MacFarlane, things like that. Basically... the animated sitcoms that are very much meant for adults, even going as far back as the black and white Flintstones, if any of you are old enough to know of that.
None of us are old enough to know about that. You're just a weirdo with niche knowledge.
Yep.
With that out of the way, we kind of need to cover the premise, and this episode's premise is actually kind of a twofer.
Twofer.
So there's the animation that is meant for adults that isn't just the animated sitcom format.
Or porn.
And we are going to touch base on some of those because it's very important to acknowledge that animation as a overall artistic medium has grown beyond a lot of Western perception. Believe it or not, there are a whole lot of Western perceptions that think any animation is for kids, and no, it's not.
Oh, no. No, it's not.
The second premise of this episode is the shows that are intended for a younger audience, but have also found a fan base in older viewers.
There is nothing wrong with liking kids' media. I am a 38-year-old man, and this week I went and watched Lightyear on my own, unironically.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Steven Universe, Avatar. We'll get into it more, but there are shows that were written and produced and targeted mainly at a younger audience that have found older fans.
And it's also, in relation to that, it's also important to note that a lot of these shows that were marketed towards kids weren't just kids stuff. Well, again, we'll get into it more later, but there are so many of these shows that cover heavy, important topics that aren't something you would normally think about in a kids show.
And we'll also be paying a brief shout out at some point to some of the earlier Warner Brothers cartoons as well, because Animaniacs, Tiny Toons had a ton of jokes in them for the parents as well as the kids. And we definitely want to spend a little time on that later.
I found prints.
No, fingerprints.
I don't think so.
I'm sorry, if your kid got that joke, be concerned.
And of course, even kicking as far back as Looney Tunes, the original.
Some of the Looney Tunes had some very adult jokes in it, buried under the childish humor.
And also a lot of more mature references to, like, classic literature and such.
Yeah. And we'll be getting to all of that a little bit more in detail later in the episode. But first, I want to touch base on animation, finger quotes, cartoons, aimed, produced, and marketed at adults. Because there's more than you'd think, dating back further than you'd think. You brought up the Flintstones already.
Yeah, I mean, that's the earliest I know of. But that one is kind of a little bit of an obscure one, especially since it became a kid's cartoon in later years.
Yeah. So I want to start off with a very broad category of animation. And it's one that's probably not going to surprise a whole lot of people. Anime.
Oh god, there is so much anime that is not kid stuff.
Akira will just straight up traumatize a child. Period.
Yeah, it is dark, it is screwed up, the body horror of it is...
grotesque is the term, I believe.
Yeah, it is a screwed up anime, and honestly, it's also kind of one of the lighter ones.
Yeah, another one that's definitely adult, but not... It's screwed up for entirely different reasons. Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost in the Shell, I mean, I love Ghost in the Shell. It is one of my favorites. But yeah, the concepts of it and what it deals with is...
The core question it asks is, what is human? And while that's definitely a question that you want to get kids starting to think about, the layers it goes to are... And to be clear, I'm not looking down on children. Children are smart. Way smarter than you think they are.
Children can handle a lot more than people think.
But something that layered and complex, most kids, not all, because there's always exceptions, but most kids are going to struggle with that until they're well into their teens at the earliest.
Yeah, and there's two other anime I want to bring up.
Shoot.
So, one of them is one that actually starts to border on hentai at times. And that is Berserk.
Yeah, Berserk is violent, raunchy, perverse.
Gory as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a messed up show. It is horribly messed up, and if you let your kids watch Berserk, I think you're a little bit messed up.
Yeah, seriously.
And the other one is one that's a lot more modern, and it needs a mention for two reasons. And that is Beastars.
Mm-hmm. Beastars is one I have not watched, but I've heard about. And it's twofold. One, it deals with just general adult life.
Oh, it's also violent, it's bloody, it's sexual.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing about it, and this is the other reason I bring it up, is its cast is entirely anthropomorphic animals. And you see almost any media with anthro animals, and what is it?
It's for kids. It's some Disney thing or whatever.
Also, if you hear a mild squeaking, Kaiju has her raccoon.
It is Raccoon O'Clock. She is a boost and neglected.
Yep, unloved, unwanted.
Every time I turn to look at her, she stops to look at me like, "Are you paying attention to me now?"
Is this okay?
And then I start to turn away and she starts nomming on the raccoon again.
Am I going to get in trouble?
So, the Western animation has some of its roots in adult cinema, not in the porn sense, although that too, honestly.
That too.
But mainstream adult cinema. But we didn't really see... There was this weird shift somewhere between the 40s and the 80s where we kind of decided cartoons were entirely for kids. And I don't know what entirely brought that about. I'm not a historian. But I do know that Japan looked at that and went, no. So a lot of the earliest contemporary art I can think of is coming out of the 70s and 80s from Japan. You know, like Akira, Ghost in the Shell, etc.
You want to know kind of an interesting, related but kind of side tangent here?
What was that?
A long time ago, books, illustrations were standard in books even for adults. But somewhere along the way, we decided that pictures in books were for kids.
Yeah. I mean, even Tolkien had illustrations.
Tolkien, Dixon.
Yeah. I don't know.
Or Dickinson, sorry.
Yeah. It's just weird. Our culture is weird, man.
It is. But then we go into American animation, and where we really start seeing it again is heavy metal.
Yeah. Heavy metal popped up in the 80s and was a love letter to adult animation.
I've actually never seen it.
It's a set of not really connected stories told through different animation styles, and it's a head trip and a half, and I love it.
So basically it was like 1980s Love, Death, and Robots?
Sure, why not?
Have you not watched Love, Death, and Robots?
No, I have not.
Okay, I'm giving you homework.
No.
Watch Love, Death, and Robots.
No.
Fans, tell Grimm to watch Love, Death, and Robots.
The more you tell me to watch something, the more I'm not gonna.
Also, watch Our Flag Means Death.
I swear to God, if I see one more gay pirate. But you've also got a modern example, which some classify this as anime, and that's fine. I disagree. For me, it falls more in the Western animation category, but I'm not here to gatekeep anime. Just to be clear, it's just my personal opinion. Gatekeeper. Oh, shut up. And that's Castlevania, which I am a big fan of.
It's okay.
Have you even watched it yet?
Like the first season or two. I need to catch up on it, but there's so much other stuff to watch.
Mood. But yeah, Castlevania is one of those that, especially the animation, I'm a big fan of. I mean, I was a fan of the games beforehand, but the animation really grabbed me. And the writing was great. We're not going to get into the controversy surrounding the writer. We don't got the time for that. But the writing was really good. And the animation was great. And of course the acting was amazing. I mean, their cast was top notch. And it was violent and bloody and sexy and not something kids should be watching, in my opinion.
There's another modern Western animation that I think we should mention as well.
What was that?
Invincible.
Oh yeah, for all of the above reasons.
Yeah, and one of the things, Castlevania, at a glance, looks a lot more like anime. It looks dark. It looks like something that someone who is kind of on the fence about, animation is for kids, might think, okay, this probably isn't for kids. But Invincible, at a glance, it's bright, it's colorful, it's superheroes, it has that classic superhero cartoon animation style, and people get blown up and ripped in half and die horrible deaths. And
Kirkman.
I do love that show. I'm really looking forward to season 2.
So am I. Especially because I've read somewhat ahead in the comics. I'm looking forward to a few events being animated.
I still need to read the comics. I need to add those to my collection.
So, with that, we've covered animation intended for an older, more mature audience. And we needed to cover that because the core premise of cartoons are for kids, fuck you, no they're not, is an extrapolated attitude of dismissal. Yeah. And so I needed to make sure that we covered both sides of it because regardless of the perspective, there still is a prevalent opinion of dismissal and condescension towards enjoying animation in general as an older viewer.
Yeah. And that is starting to drift.
It is. And it has been for a little while now, but I've seen it starting to poke its head up again, and I want to make sure that we squash it.
Yeah, it's...
Because I fucking grew up with that fucking horseshit, and I'm tired of it.
You know, let's just start right off the bat. Let's go with one of the big ones.
Yeah. So, there are a lot of shows aimed at a younger audience that have found a thriving fan base among older viewers. And we're not going to get too into it because I'm personally not a fan. If you are, great. Just don't be weird about it. You know who you are. And we are, of course, referring to My Little Pony.
Don't be weird about it, bronies. Please.
Please stop being weird about it. Put the jar away. Put the jar away. Gah.
And if you're going to be weird about it, stay far, far away from kids while you're weird about it.
I'd prefer you not stop being weird about it in general, but yeah, definitely if you're going to be weird about it, do it over there in the corner away from them. Please. With that obligatory segment out of the way.
There's also, of course, Avatar and Legend of Korra.
And regardless of your feelings on Korra and the studio fuckery thereof...
Fuck the studio.
Fuck Nickelodeon.
Is the studio Jim, maybe?
Jim-Melodian.
Well, you're adorable.
She is. And pathetic.
Yeah, with Avatar and Korra, there's a lot of... there's a lot of adult fans of it, regardless. And it definitely was a kid's show, but, you know, it covered... I mean, bloody hell. It opens up with genocide.
Yeah, it covers war, and it shows the extremes war can drive you to. And it showed all these lives that it destroyed and the people who perpetrated it. It showed abuse and what abuse from a parental figure can do to you in two different ways. We've got two primary characters where we watch what this abuse does. You know, with Zuko, it drives him, it creates this burning fire in him, and only once he acknowledges it and acknowledges the pain he's carrying does he start to actually grow as a character. And then there's his sister, who just... she breaks.
She breaks completely.
Because she has to be perfect. She must be perfect. She's the perfect one. She must always be perfect. I'm sorry, a kid does not develop that mentality on their own.
No, it's...
Their father burned that into both of them.
Burned.
Literally in Zuko's case. And
And we also see the other effects of trauma. I mean, you look at Katara.
Yeah, she is the last waterbender of the Southern Water Tribe that we know of, because the Fire Nation came for the rest.
And she basically became her family's mom at a very young age.
Yeah.
And so she became this mature, strong, independent character who
so rarely throughout the course of the series was allowed to be a child.
Yeah. And, of course, I totally blanking on her brother's name.
Sokka.
Yeah. You know, he's kind of the opposite, where he was too young. He wasn't allowed to go be a warrior. And for him, that broke him in a different way.
Yeah, it's... And then you've got the expectation of parents, which is covered in so many different characters, but you see it in sharpest relief in Toph, where her parents expect her to be nothing just because she's disabled.
Well, and she's wealthy. So she's supposed to just be this pretty little thing that wanders around and people feel bad for her. And I am sorry, she is the biggest badass in that series.
She's the greatest earthbender ever, and don't you forget it, dunderheads. And you know that it was dunderheads because I couldn't let Toph say shitheads.
I mean, she's the one who figured out metal bending.
Toph Beifong is the biggest badass in all of Avatar, and I will die on that hill. Yes, that includes both of the avatars we spend time with.
Well, because the Avatar... Part of it is the avatars... They don't quite suffer from Superman syndrome, but they kind of do because they have so much power at their disposal. When you get the benders who have limited power at their disposal, but still figure out amazing things. I mean, you've got magma bending, you've got explosive bending.
Yeah, sand bending.
Blood bending.
Which is terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, blood bending is...
Yeah. And it deals with all these various other themes that are woven through it, and we could do a whole episode talking about just Avatar and Korra.
Yeah, we could. And we might sometime. Yeah.
There's a couple of brief mentions I want to make for the Fox 90s Marvel. That would be X-Men and Spider-Man from, like I said, the 90s. Where it was silly because they weren't allowed to show real guns, so everything was lasers.
Lasers.
Yet they also dealt with the topics of, like, addiction and all the baggage that comes with being genetic mutant freaks. And
yeah, X-Men were originally an analogy of the civil rights movement.
Yeah,
and that's still the case in the cartoon.
Yeah, and the best part about it is, because it's an allegory, well, which civil rights movement? Yeah, exactly, that's the point. Because it's an allegory, it can be an allegory for any of them. Racial rights, queer rights, just standard human rights. Anybody who is considered the other by whoever's in power, whoever's the authority, whatever is considered normal. And that's what makes them so great, and also a wonderful vehicle for tackling a lot of these issues. I mean, there were multiple issues cackled in the cartoon that dealt with the sense of identity that comes from being the other.
Was it the cartoon? Or was it ever covered in the cartoon, the arc of curing mutants?
I believe it was touched on at least once, but then it turned out to be like an apocalypse plot or something.
And, I don't know if it was covered in the cartoons this way, but I still want to mention it anyways, because it's kind of those things that stands out so well, because it did show up in the X-Men movies, which were live action, of course, so only sort of count, but...
Yeah.
Is when they're talking about, curing mutants, and characters like Storm are saying, oh, no, you don't need a cure, there's nothing wrong with you, to characters like Rogue, who will kill somebody if she touches them.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you're the goddess of storms. Yeah, of course you don't want a cure. You're amazing. You have amazing powers. But the powers that will hurt people unintentionally, or are just useless and make you stand out, or cause problems in your life, yeah, those you don't want those.
Yeah, there's a recurring minor character, a mutant. His only power is he's got hair all over. That's it. I don't think they ever gave him a name in the cartoon or anything, but he's a recurring, background character. And there's one scene that still stands out vividly, decades later, of a group of mutant haters have him cornered, and he's pleading with them I don't have any weird powers, man. I don't have any weird powers. I just look different. Please, no. As they're about to, beat him. So, yeah, those cartoons were aimed at... they were Saturday morning cartoons. But they carried deeper themes and messages.
Well, and, the other one that X-Men always covers, and it gets a little tiring how often they cover it, Mutant Registration Act.
Yeah, that came up a few times. And then, of course, Spider-Man dealt with a whole different bag of issues, a lot of them relating to New York. There was an entire episode where the Punisher hunted Spider-Man because he was because he was considered a public menace.
God damn it, JJ.
Yeah. And that brings me around, since we're talking about some superhero stuff.
No, there's one other one we need to cover first.
Since
we're talking about Fox Saturday morning cartoons.
What's that?
Gargoyles.
Well, that was Disney.
Was it? I thought it was Fox.
Nope, Gargoyles is Disney.
I know it's on Disney Plus now, but I thought it was Fox. Whatever.
No, it was,
They're the same thing now, so it doesn't matter.
We live in a dystopia. Sorry, what?
But, Gargoyles did cover a lot of these more mature topics, too. There's the episode where Brooklyn...
Yeah, I think it's...
the tubby one.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
I think he's...
because Lexington was the small dude.
Or...
Bronx was the dog. Hudson was the old man. It's the red one and the chubby one that I can never remember. I know one of them is Brooklyn.
And I can't remember the name of the other one.
Me either.
And I just watched it fairly recently.
But, yeah, is screwing around and Eliza gets shot.
Yeah. With her own gun, because he's sitting there...
Eliza? Whatever.
Yeah, because he's sitting there playing detective and playing with her gun, and...
it goes off.
Yeah, and... that's a very real thing. It's happened so many times.
There's... Damona's entire arc. Start to finish.
How about the episode where Xanatos' wife gets turned to stone? Where they have that whole arc that turns humans to stone, and Xanatos' wife falls into it, and this villain, this guy who is the archetypal evil mastermind through the entire show,
the man who sparked the term Xanatos Gambit,
goes to the Gargoyles for help.
Because he knows they will give it.
And also, that's the other thing about that show, is that show has one of the best villain romances you'll ever see Because it is a romance of mutual respect.
Yep. And and there were so many reveals in that show that were just, wait, they did what? Like the reveal that his personal assistant was Puck in disguise.
Yeah. I mean, that came out of left field, but...
And then, as part of whatever the resolution was, he was basically told to stay there and be his personal assistant. Which is just messed up. And then later on, there's an episode where Thor gets the eye of Goliath. Wrong name. Ugh. Goliath gets the eye of Odin. And it skews his perceptions to where he believes he is protecting the people he cares about. But all he's doing is holding them prisoner.
Well, and then, oh god, what was his name? The cyborg gargoyle. He shows up later on.
Thalog.
No. That's the clone version of Goliath. He wasn't a cyborg. He was a clone. There was also a cyborg that was one of the gargoyles.
I don't remember that one.
Because he was voiced by Michael Dorn.
I don't remember. It's been too long.
I mean, his entire arc of dealing with a sense of identity and who and what he is.
Oh, and the final resolution of the pack. And the huntsman, or I don't remember if that was his actual title. But the one with the mask with the claw mark.
Yeah. His arc was...
His arc, which of course was directly connected to Damona's arc. And yeah, it was aimed at kids, but it dealt with such deeper issues.
Yeah, that series was not kid stuff.
But it was presented in a kid-friendly package.
Yeah. Including lasers.
Pew pew.
Except for Liza's gun.
Yep.
Or Lisa, I don't remember her name. It's been...
Elisa Maza? Elisa Maza sounds right to my ear.
Yeah.
I know it's spelled like Eliza, but I think it's Elisa. Elisa Maza. So, anyway. That is just one animated series from the 90s that dealt with those really deeper... Because, I mean, X-Men and Spider-Man dealt with some deeper themes, but they didn't go that hard.
Yeah.
There's another category, though, that did. A category of animation that found its roots in the 90s and has continued on into the modern day with some amazing results. DC Animated. And it really started with Batman, the animated series. It's... On the surface, it looks like just a darker kids show with the standard kids show resolutions of the bad guy gets taken down, blah, blah, blah. But there's some of these episodes that just strike deep and hard.
Giggity.
Do not besmirch Batman that way. You fucking sicko.
I thought you said we weren't talking about hentai.
We're not. Stop being pervy.
Never.
I will get the spray bottle. There's a couple of episodes in particular that stand out in my mind. One, I cannot remember the character's name or even the name of the episode, but there's an episode with like a former model or actress or something like that who starts committing crimes wearing a mask. Because something happened and she's ugly now and societal pressure and basically caused her to break. Surprise, surprise, another member of Batman's Rogues Gallery who could use some actual therapy and not whatever the fuck is going on at Arkham.
Batman could save the world by just paying for lots and lots of therapists.
He keeps trying, but unfortunately all he has to work with is Arkham. Which, how many supervillains have come out of Arkham now? Let's see. Hugo Strange. I think Jonathan Crane started there. Harleen Quinzel. Shut that place down already! Open an actual fucking institution! God damn! But the episode with this model or actress, I really don't remember. Which just means I need to go back and watch that series again.
I think it's on HBO.
I think it is too. But it ends with the mask falling off, and I think it's Batgirl talking to Batman like, she's beautiful. And Batman just remarks, yes, but she doesn't see it anymore. All she sees are the imperfections and flaws. That kind of a commentary, by the way, this was back in the 90s, but that kind of a commentary on the societal pressures women face to be beautiful at all times. Ugh!
Especially women in any kind of entertainment field.
Just...
Even fucking authors!
Just... fucking... mind-boggling. And the fact that it's still relevant today pisses me off. And there's another episode that's kind of similar. And there's a couple of episodes actually involving this character. The entire character of Babyface. I'm pretty sure that was her name. But she was this actress who had a disease where she didn't age. Visibly, at least. So she always looked like a young kid. Which allowed her to star on this sitcom as a child star, finger quotes, for way longer than most child stars would actually be able to stay a child star. But eventually the sitcom ended anyway, because all things must end. And she couldn't find other work because of the way she looked. I can't remember if it's the first or second episode we run into her where she's basically running a motel because it's all she can really do. She can't get a, finger quotes, normal job. She can't get any more acting gigs. And then I know that the second episode we see her in, she ends up partnering up with Killer Croc. And that episode just really showcased how heartbreakingly lonely society's treatment of her because of her appearance has left her. And at first she thinks, oh, well, Killer Croc is someone who also looks different from the norm. He's someone who would understand her, but ultimately he's just not that into her. And that drives her even more over the edge. And it's... I could talk about TAS all day.
And I would be sitting here going, durr, because I've watched like maybe 2 episodes of it.
You should fix that.
But there's so much other stuff to watch.
Don't care. TAS is more important.
I mean, I need to finish Sarah Connor Chronicles so I can give Cody hell. I need to finish Beastars.
TAS is more important than both of those.
Yeah, well, your face.
TAS is more important than that, too.
And it is important to note really quick regarding DC animation that while DC animation did start here, like Batman and the Animated Series and such, and Batman Beyond and things that were, they were kids' shows. They weren't childish, but they were kids' shows.
Yeah.
The modern DC animation is not for kids. I mean,
yeah.
They did an animated version of Killing Joke, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. When I say DC animated, I'm talking about like the old, mostly the older stuff. A few more modern things. I'll get into it in a few moments. Really quick, want to do a quick shout out to Static Shock. I am not qualified to get into all the stuff that show covered. I am very white. And that show was very much not about the white experience. But it was a really good show and it covered a lot of deeper subject matter. Building off of TAS was Batman Beyond, which basically doubled down. So TAS tended to look at like a larger picture whenever it was making commentary. You know, like the societal norms pressed upon women and their appearance. That type of thing. Beyond took it to a personal level, where we saw characters dealing with things like addiction, abusive home environments, things like that. It got dark, and it didn't talk down to its audience. And because of that, it has found a considerable fan base among older individuals. I first watched it while younger, but I've rewatched it in like just the last few years, and it still holds up to me. I'm still a fan. The nostalgia goggles alone are not keeping it in my heart. And if you're wondering why Zilgar's being quiet, well, he doesn't do a lot of the DC stuff.
I have never watched Batman Beyond. While Grim is here talking about DC stuff, I'm just like, I have no frame of reference other than what you have told me.
Yep. Yeah. Batman Beyond also had a spin-off series called The Zeta Project, which was about a self-aware robot on the run from the government trying to find his own identity. And that entire premise is fucked up.
If you like that premise, though, also read the Murderbot Diaries novels. I will make everybody read those books, damn it!
And then some of the more recent DC animated, we've got Young Justice, which is really good. Kind of a different take on some of the characters we know and love, but also tackling some of the real problems that exist in life through the veneer and lens of fucked up superhero shenanigans. And that's about all I got on DC Animated as far as things that talk to an older audience. I could continue, but I don't want to leave poor Zolgar sitting over there quiet for the rest of the fucking episode.
I mean, if you want to just keep talking about DC, I'll just turn my mic off and go play a video game.
So you see Batman, and he's like really, really great and everything. No, I'm kidding. I mean, he is great. I love the character, but no, I'm. This is two idiots and a dog, not me monologuing.
I mean, people listen to me monologue. I don't know why.
Yeah, but that's not this episode's format.
Question for you.
Yeah.
In the DC animated stuff, have any of the queer characters made it in?
I believe as of Young Justice, possibly. Older stuff? No.
Well, definitely not the older stuff.
Definitely not the older stuff, because despite the work that people did, there were still certain individuals higher up the chain in power that would quash anything.
Yeah, I mean, we cover that kind of stuff in 2 episodes ago on Unleashed when we talked about queer representation in media. Most specifically, I was wondering if, like, in Young Justice or something, if Connor Hawke had showed up yet.
I don't know if Connor Hawke has shown up yet. I'm actually behind on the latest season.
Well, get good, scrub.
There's too much to watch. I haven't even started Umbrella Academy yet. Season 3, specifically, before y'all come at me. There's too much to watch. Speaking of queer rep, hi, Klaus.
And Victor. Which, they handle Victor's transition really well.
I've seen gift sets of the family just going, okay, cool.
The best part, of course, is Luther being like, we should make a big deal out of it. We should have, like, a party. And then Diego's just like, hey, Victor, do you feel loved and accepted? Yeah. There you go.
Took them two friggin' seasons to get there. Because Victor was definitely not loved and accepted in season 1.
Well, I mean, Victor was kind of the villain in season 1. Kind of.
Yeah, pushed to that point, but yeah.
If you haven't seen it yet...
This tangent brought to you by Gerard Way's weird, amazing, fucked up imagination.
Yeah, so... in the first 2 seasons, Elliot Page plays Vanya Hargreaves. I
don't even fucking know anymore, man.
And, of course, Elliot Page is a trans man. And when he transitioned, he was willing to still play Vanya as a cis female.
And for season 3, they went, nah.
And Gerard Way was like, who is, by the way, the writer of the comics, was just like, no, we can rewrite the character for you. And so they rewrote Vanya to transition to Victor.
Which I think is really cool.
It's great.
Also incredibly off topic.
Yep, but...
but still cool. Yeah, those are most of the examples I can think of. So unless you have more examples, I suppose we should just, discuss the philosophy behind the premise here.
There's at least one other example I definitely want to bring up.
Go for it.
Zootopia.
Yeah, okay.
Again, that is very much a kid's movie. But it deals with tones of racism and inequality on a large scale, but also it deals with more small-scale things, because you've got the large-scale dynamic of the carnivores versus the herbivores.
Yeah.
But you've also got little things like how Judy is treated because she's a rabbit. Oh, they're so cute, and these stereotypes and ideas. And you also have things like the fox that is so cruel to her as a kid. As an adult, you realize that he got therapy, he got help, and learned to be a better person.
Yeah. So there's all these really deeper, humanizing themes, which is a little ironic considering we're talking about anthropomorphic animals. But then, isn't that what anthropomorphizing is all about? Giving human characteristics to non-human things.
Yeah, and again, it uses the same kind of thing as, X-Men does, where it's not going It's able to reference these themes in a way that is a little bit less...
It's kind of like a basic primer for later discussions on deeper racial conflict.
Yeah.
And
by the way, white people, if you're not having that conversation with your kids, have that conversation with your kids, goddammit.
Yeah, seriously. So you've got these deeper themes and interconnection layers of various types of racism and how it can reflect in society, along with a few other amusing gags relating to types of animals. The sloth at the DMV, who I believe later gets caught speeding, which is hilarious to me. But there is one other element of this that I need to bring up that really found a hook with the more mature audience. Those tigers had no business going that hard. I promise you, this movie awakened something in someone somewhere.
This movie is responsible for lots and lots of furries. I was a furry long before it came out, so it's not responsible for me.
No, it's retroactively responsible for you.
No. I can pretty firmly blame two things for me being a furry. The old Disney animated Robin Hood and Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers.
No, I sent this movie to you back through time.
I will throw Nick Cage at you.
Why would you do that with Nick Cage? He doesn't deserve that.
Yeah, well, you don't deserve Nick Cage.
Does anybody deserve Nick Cage?
Pedro Pascal deserves Nick Cage.
I've heard they had great chemistry in that movie.
Oh, amazing chemistry. But that's totally off topic.
Completely off topic. Yeah, so before we head out, I just remembered I need to touch base on Warner Brothers. Animaniacs, Looney Tunes, Tiny Toons. We've talked about this a little bit already. So I just want to revisit it quick. Of these shows that are clearly animated, designed, targeted, and marketed at a younger audience. But recognize some parent is going to be stuck watching this for hours with their kid. And put something in there for the older fan base. For an older audience. You've got the fingerprints joke, and that was just an example. Animaniacs had so many of those jokes.
Well, and of course, the other thing, the new Animaniacs just straight up says, screw this, and they talk about some really important topics.
Yeah. Same with Tiny Toons had a few references. Looney Tunes had tons of adult references in it. Since the older cartoons, all the way up through some of the modern incarnations. And it's amusing to me just going back and rewatching those with an adult perspective and going, oh, that joke. That's funny. Because, I mean, the fingerprints joke should have gone right over your head as a kid. And if it didn't, I really hope you got therapy. Because if you're young enough to be in the original target demographic and you got that joke, I am concerned for you. Which I think is fair.
Fair enough.
So, I hope this episode we've been able to illustrate the multiple ways in which cartoons aren't just for kids. I mean, even when they're aimed at children, there's plenty of adults who enjoy this content, and it's perfectly fine and acceptable to do so. And if you're one of those people that thinks, oh, cartoons are just for kids...
Fuck you, you're an idiot.
Don't show your kids Castlevania and heavy metal. Please, for the love of God. Or whatever invisible sky deity you worship that lives up there and judges you. I don't know. What are people worshiping these days?
Flying spaghetti monster.
Flying spaghetti monster. Okay, that makes sense. So, in closing, enjoy what you enjoy.
It doesn't matter if it's meant for kids.
It doesn't matter if it's meant for adults. Just feel free to enjoy what you enjoy.
Unless it's Seth MacFarlane's work. Ah!
Or you're being weird about it. Stop being weird about it.
That's it for this week.
If you like what we do, please give us a like, follow, rating, all that nonsense on your favorite podcatcher.
You can also support us on Patreon for special bonus content and episodes a week early, or tip us on Ko-fi. You can find those and our social media platforms and Discord server in the show notes.
Also be sure to give our friends some love.
Who are we doing this time?
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Matt St. Jack. Whether you're an avid anime fan, a wee tadpole still finding your way, or anywhere in between, I'll be providing my opinions and insights on anime old and new. Think Yelp with help from friends and producers from other shows weighing in. I know you can't wait to hear, and I can't wait to tell, so let's get to it. This is Matt St. Jack with Anime Talk. Let's go.
Last, but certainly not least, we want to give a quick shout out to all of our supporters on Patreon and Ko-fi, especially these idiots.
Random Warrior and Rain.
Meow.